It's Monday, October 9th, and I'm coming to everyone with a Tarot Snapshot. I want to thank everybody for taking a look at this video, and this reading that I'm bringing really goes for anybody that stumbles across this video. Anybody new to me, anybody that's been with me for quite some time, this reading that I'm about to give is meant for you, okay? Now, this is the month of October. This is the month of death. For those of us in the northern hemisphere, things are dying on the outside of us. You know, we're watching the foliage and the leaves pass away. Everything's going dormant, and that is death in a way. We're about to walk into winter where, well, things won't come back to life. That's just the nature of reality. Yet, the month of our ancestors and the month of death, why is it also the month of the trickster? Well, the month of trick-or-treating, the month of goofiness, well, it's really a reminder for us that in times of struggle, in times of turmoil and stress and death even, grief, we must get our vitamin joy. I'm all about the vitamin joy. I'm all about seeking joy, especially in response to trauma and pain. So when we are dealt trauma, pain, difficulty, as life inevitably will, we should get vitamin joy in the same way that our bodies need vitamins when we're healthy. Well, when our vitamins, when our body is sort of sick or unhealthy, we need more vitamins, we need more health, we need more vitality. So in the same way that, Jack Skellington would absolutely want to get the vitamin joy of Christmas, well, let's take just a moment here to appreciate the joy that Halloween brings us and how necessary that is in our life when we're dealing with the inevitable traumas and pains. Now, with that being said, I'm going to shuffle 5 times, and this is the Tarot Snapshot. The first card represents who we are in this moment. This message is even for me because I'm sharing this video. I'm watching this video as it's kind of unrolling through me. The first card represents us. The second card represents what vexes and perplexes, the thorn in our side. And the third and final card represents what heals and reveals, the rose to the thorn, if you will. So let me go ahead and cut this deck right here. Okay. This card represents us. Okay. The King of Bats. All right. The King of Bats in this tarot deck represents the King of Swords. This is this is the guy that gets it done. Now, male or female otherwise, we all carry within us masculine and feminine attributes, and I'm not talking about gender or sexuality. If you think of the masculine energy as of the heat of summer, right? The expansive energy. And then there's the receptive energy of the femininity. Well, this is very much the assertive energy. Now, this card is also going to ask us to be kind of clinical, really intellectual, and really smart about what's going on. You are somebody who wants the best for your loved ones, for your family. And I do believe that love is the greatest source of strength and wisdom that we have access to, because when you have to carry a burden for somebody that you love, you become the strongest that you could ever be. When you have to solve a problem, use that intellect for somebody that you love, you become the smartest that you could ever be. Remember how smart you are for people that you love. And remember how that love informs and fuels and amplifies, influences that intellect of yours. You are the king of your kingdom. As much as you might think that you are the queen of your kingdom, you are the king of your kingdom. And in tarot, there's this expression about the kings being the movie directors and the queens being the producers, which there might be some truth to that, especially if you grew up in a heteronormative household where, the dads were the head of the household and the women had to produce and do all the things, pay the bills, take care of the kids. That's unfair and imbalanced, absolutely. Yet, I want you to think about being the head of your household. If you're seeing this card and you're seeing this reading, that's what this card means, that you are the head of this household. And I love how the butterfly right there matches up to the butterfly here. This is also the energy of the Archangel Michael, the warrior with the sword. Now, we have to be our own warriors in our own life. Yet this indicates a degree of wisdom, that we must know when to bring the sword to bear. We must use the sword with wisdom, because if we don't, it becomes a weapon against ourselves and others. So remember that your intellect is either going to be your greatest tool or your greatest weapon against yourself or others. Remember how much that you have to be the head of your household and the king of your kingdom. And how much you already are. Even if you share the responsibilities, we're still the heads of our kingdoms. Okay. The next card is what vexes and perplexes us all. Okay. The Eight of Bats. Another Bats card. Another Swords card. All right. Traditionally, this card shows a woman and sort of like bound up, and she's got a blindfold on, and there are swords behind her. This card to me shows a person who doesn't realize how beautiful they are and how strong they are, and that they are sort of blindfolded by their own intellectual misconceptions. That's super important for us to all remember, because our mind is either going to be the greatest tool we have or the greatest weapon against us. I also like to think that the things that you're worried about, in the way that this person would have swords behind them or bats unraveling them, perhaps they're your friends and not your enemies. So the way that some of us could be scared of spirit, and I have all sorts of things to say about that, your ancestors, your beloved dead, are there to help you. And perhaps you're even there to help unravel the binds which contain you. Ultimately, you have to see your mind as your greatest tool, not a weapon. A sword is ultimately a tool of self-defense, protecting our borders, yes? That's an important distinction to make, because, well, there are people that will take a sword and go to war with it. There's no glory in going to war. There's only glory in defending our borders. And that's why we would have, militaries and swords, ultimately. But just remember that you are more beautiful and you're more capable than you would ever realize. And the only thing that is telling you different is baggage that you would have picked up along the way. Stories, conditionings, programs that we would have picked up along the way. Think about how much you don't like your body or your face or anything like that. The reason that we don't is because we hear bullshit like, maybe she's born with it, maybe it's Maybelline. Think about baggage in the way that it's called baggage, because we can set it down. That's what this card represents. The card that heals and reveals is this. Ah, the Devil card. Oh boy, here we go. Here we go. So the Devil card. Okay. The Devil card never represents the devil. It represents the baser natures of humanity, ultimately. The addictions and the pains and all of that can be caused. Yet, there is something about honoring our body that a lot of... Think about what we would be taught by culture, by religion, about sexual purity and all sorts of awful things like that. Sometimes it's useful for us to be a tricky little devil. Sometimes we have to go out and know pleasure. And we've got all sorts of ancestors that were, while they were in life, would have been experiencing pleasure to their own degree. You're here because people reproduced, yet they could have had questionable attitudes about that. We're all really suffering because of a sick culture that we're in. This sick culture that would tell us to avoid pleasure, avoid joy, avoid, sex and dancing and all of that. Think of Footloose, right? Footloose from the 80s. Pleasure and dancing. But there would be that idea or that cultural imperative that it wasn't healthy. In this way, sometimes you have to enjoy life, always in moderation, always in balance, but never deny and never think that you have to be a certain thing. If you would want your loved ones to enjoy their body, to eat and to dance and to enjoy the act of making love, well, that is a standard by which you have to carry yourself through this world as well. So this is the card that heals and reveals. Sometimes it's useful for us to remember that there is beauty in being human. There's beauty in resting and in playing and frolicking and the other F word, if you will. So remember that you're a human animal that has needs and wants that should be honored. Take care of yourself. That is the Tarot Snapshot for this Monday, October 9th.